today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite hacks. This is a way to completely modify or customize the hole size of your grazing muzzle. And the good news is that this particular hack can be done with any of our muzzle sizes. It can also be done even if you have an older style muzzle. So this is our pony size with these slots here. If you ordered a muzzle in I think pre-2022 and it doesn't have these rectangular slots, these come on the pony and the horse size. The mini muzzle didn't change at all. You can still do this hack. So if you have a horse or pony size with the without these slots, you'll definitely need the tabless leather insert. It might also be, depending on when you're watching this, be listed as our mini size insert. Believe it or not, these are both the same product right now. We are actually at some point going to have a different one that is just slightly modified, but they're basically the same thing. This is shaped differently because it has been soaked in water and inserted into the mini muzzle. So today I'm actually going to show you how to do it in the mini muzzle. If you have the horse or pony size, those are going to be really similar, but this one has a little bit of nuance to it. So I just wanted to show that one because it's not really challenging, but it's a little bit different, and it'll be easier for me to show how it works on all of them if I do it with this one. What you're gonna need to do this is you're gonna need your muzzle. You're going to need an insert. If you have a mini muzzle, the only mini insert we have is this leather one right now. Again, depending when you're watching it, because we're always making new products. You're also going to need the zip ties, either the ones that came with it, or these are just ones I had laying around. I like the fun colors. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a like Sharpie or marker of some kind, probably an Xacto knife. It can be like a box cutter. It doesn't have to be like this one. And then a leather punch. If you don't have all these cutting tools, you might be able to do all of this with just scissors. And then the last thing that you're gonna need is some type of plastic. So this is a cutting board that I'm pretty sure I got from Walmart. And it actually has like some little texture on the underside to keep it from sliding around on a countertop, which I think is actually really good for this particular project, because once you get this is what we're going to use to change the hole size. We're going to be sandwiching it in between the insert and the muzzle. You don't really want it to move around a whole lot. You don't have to have this. These are really inexpensive, and other things that you could use would be like if you had a folder that was made out of a plasticky material. The thing I liked about the cutting boards is I was felt pretty good that them putting their mouth on it is going to be safe since it's used for human food. So anyway, there's a lot of different options out there, but this is one that I really like. You can find them on Amazon, at a lot of different retailers, but I'm pretty sure these came from Walmart, and it came in a big old package of several different colors. So you can choose your fun colors as well. The first thing that you're gonna do is we're gonna be tracing around the insert. I'm gonna try to kind of flatten this out just a little bit because it was already molded to fit inside my mini muzzle. And all right. So, and it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the nice thing about this, is that, you know, you have a little bit of leeway. You do want it to kind of be the shape of this and the size, because once you get your holes cut, you don't want it to move around too much to look so it might completely cover. And then something else I really like to mention, anytime we're modifying our horse's muzzle, it is important to notice like that they are actually able to eat out of it when you modify it. You know, a lot of people see how big the holes are on the mini, and feel like this insert doesn't restrict that much, but it actually restricts quite a bit. Now I've lost my lid. It really does restrict quite a bit because the curvature of the mini muzzle, they're not really able to eat up on the side, so they're really only grazing in this area. And you can see this insert when it's in there, it blocks that center area, which is the main grazing area, quite a bit. So keep that in mind. But the reason we're doing this is because we know there are, you know, there's always outliers. There's always horses that need extra restriction and a little extra help when it comes to keeping their horses safe and healthy. And then obviously with like acute issues like laminitis and things like that. Anyway, so I just like to offer that as a word of caution. Don't overdo it just because you think your pony's fat. They still need to eat something. And then we also have a video of doing this, but not putting holes in this and completely covering the bottom of the muzzle, which might be something you'd need to do like post-surgical, or, you know, there's certain diseases that we have stumbled upon where horses can't eat forage at all. And so they're on a completely like grain-based diet, which is really unfortunate. But anyway, this can help with things like that as well. You just wouldn't follow the second steps where you're putting holes in here. We have a video on that, and it shows me doing that with, it's I think a horse size muzzle, but that and the pony size will be really similar. So if you want to see this done in not the mini muzzle, go check that video out. And I think it's something titled like how to block all the holes in a grazing muzzle. So you can search for that on our YouTube channel. So once you've, these are really bad scissors. They're from the Dollar Tree. Once you have traced, you're gonna go ahead and cut. I like to cut just inside my marker line, and you can see I did not do a great job. But here we are. Just gonna cut around, and this will go a lot better if you are using better scissors, but all my good scissors have walked away. Okay, not great, but it'll work. So then basically the idea is that we're going to be sandwiching it in here. So the reason I wanted to do the mini muzzle one is because this is gonna fit in there pretty much perfect. But with the mini, because it's curved, we're actually going to need to cut little slots or slits in the corner, because as it curves, those are going to need to kind of overlap, and I might have to do a little bit further. And all of this should be hidden by the insert, so none of it should be poking up. If you get it in there and you notice some of this is poking out the edges, go ahead and just trim that off, because we don't want them to get scratches. And so you'll know you got it right when you can get it. So that actually looks pretty good. I was able to get it pretty flush in there. The other thing about the insert is in the mini muzzle is because of the curvature, it doesn't sit super flush all the time. And that also creates a lot of distance between where their mouth and the grazing surface, and the grass. So that actually helps restrict additionally. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind. So let's see. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit sticking up. So I'm gonna trim a little bit around just because I don't want any of that showing. Okay, there we go. Kind of ugly, but it'll be fine. So now you just need to decide how big you want your holes. So, you know, and you also definitely want them to line up with the holes of the muzzle. So make sure you put this in. You'll notice it's kind of like, it's almost longer this way and shorter this way. So make sure you get it oriented correctly. And then what I like to do is just kind of line it up with the insert, and then you can take your marker and draw the holes you want. So if you're gonna do the extra restriction, I recommend maybe doing like 2/3 of this, because this blocks an additional 2/3, and I recommend taking it to this edge. If you move the holes up here, they likely won't be able to get anything because, like I mentioned, they're not really able to eat up on the sides due to the curvature of the muzzle. And that's different in the mini muzzle than the horse and pony sizes. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of a guideline. And when I cut these, I didn't draw that one very well. I'll make them a little bit more uniform. So there is that. Again, this is going to be really restrictive. If you want to know how restrictive it is, I recommend taking your muzzle and like finding grass that looks like the grass your horse would be grazing on, and like press it into the grass and see exactly how much you can get in there. Because I did that, and it's honestly kind of surprising like how hard it is to actually get the blades of grass through. And I am a sentient human with opposable thumbs. All right. I did not list a cutting board in the supplies, but I'm assuming most of you aren't doing this on your kitchen floor like I am. So this is where an Xacto knife is really handy. You can fold this kind of and get your scissors in there, but honestly, this is gonna be a lot easier. Super sharp, don't hurt yourself. And I'm not gonna do all of these. I'm just gonna do 1 or 2, and I'm gonna try to stay to the outside of my marker lines because I don't want them to be like eating where the marker is. And the nice thing about this is you can kind of create multiple plastic pieces, and you can vary the size of the holes in each of them, and you can kind of create your own little like taper situation, because some people like to taper muzzle use on and off throughout the year to either go with like their horse's weight gain or loss, or with the seasons. Like typically May tends to be one of the, at least where I'm located, tends to be one of the like more rich seasons. So that's absolutely an option that you can do. All right, so I'm gonna show you what this looks like now, and let's just all imagine that I have cut all of these out. You can pause the video here and do that yourself so that you can kind of follow along later. And you know, I tried to put a little curve on mine. You don't have to do that. A square or rectangle is honestly going to be a lot easier. So there we have it. This is what it's going to look like. And so you can see why it's really important that they line up. And you can see from that side there. If you haven't shaped this to the inside of the muzzle, now is the time to go ahead and soak it in water and get it kind of pliable. It says warm water, but I've actually done just fine just soaking it in regular water. I do like to let these dry out fully before putting them on the horse, so they've had time to like harden back up a little bit so they don't get pushed out of place. All right, so now that we've got that, depending on where you have made your holes, you might need to punch a small hole, and that's why I have this leather punch here to send the zip tie through. So we're gonna be sending our zip ties from here to here. So I can see right there, I'm gonna need to punch a hole. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure it's lined up exactly where I want it. All right, so I've got that lined up. So the hole is lined up with the insert and also with the muzzle. And then I'm gonna take my marker again and I'm gonna mark deep in the corner here where the zip tie is gonna go through, because that's where I need to punch my hole, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that in all 4 corners. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm 99% certain that I have used this leather punch on this material before. If your little slits in the corner have are kind of where those holes are, you can actually just punch a hole right at the end of that, and that'll keep it from tearing further in, but mine are just off. The zip ties I have here are really little. I really like those for the mini muzzle and for doing this, because then your holes don't have to be as big. They're not the ones that come with the muzzle though, so but they're really easy to find. Okay, so yeah, that works pretty well. Punch a nice little hole in there. So just make sure when you're punching your holes, it is big enough for the zip ties that you have. That actually works really well. I use my leather punch, I think, more than any tool when it comes to modifying the muzzles. You can actually, if you ever need to put a hole in your muzzle for some reason, they actually punch right through the plastic as well, as long as it's, as long as your hole punch is in, you know, decent shape. And believe it or not, you can actually get sharpening tools for them, which is excellent. Like I said, I use mine a lot. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to get that put in. We're gonna get this put in, and then basically we'll just be following the instructions that came with your leather insert to put the insert in. Again, if you have the horse size or the pony size, just follow, at this point, you're just gonna put your plastic layer in and then just follow the instructions for putting the insert in. I did not mention this can work with the black inserts, the ones that are made out of a more like rubbery plastic. They can work for that. It may not allow, depending on what type of plastic you use, it may not allow for them to sit as flush as you want. So that's something to consider. All right, so because the hole is not gonna let this part come through, I'm actually gonna be hiding that in here because I don't like them to be where they're gonna touch the horse. So, and I'm not gonna tighten it up super tight just yet. I'm gonna wait till I get all of them kind of situated. So I'm gonna put the tail through the hole that I punched, and then the ribbed side is facing in so it catches. There we go. And if you want to see this done, like I said on this one, just check out the one for blocking all the holes. It's basically the same. We just don't do the tracing and cutting of the hole size that we want. So that will give you a better idea if you need to see it on a muzzle that is shaped more like the one that you have. And then if you do have the horse size muzzle that does not have these slots, you will have an additional step of punching a tiny hole right here in the corner to anchor the insert, because the corner holes are a little bit higher and otherwise it'll be kind of like floating around and shifting around too much. So, and there's a video on how to do that on adapting an older style muzzle for the inserts. So just gonna pull these really tight, and okay, and I'm gonna press those little housings in there once I feel like I've gotten it pulled really tight. Sometimes I'll use like needle nose pliers to get a little bit of extra pull. But you can see that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like from this side. And you might not have to replace this eventually. It shouldn't get a ton of wear and tear because it's not touching the ground, and it's not touching their teeth. But do just, you know, keep an eye on it, make sure, you know, parts of it aren't getting broken, because we wouldn't want a piece of this to be sticking up towards their gums or anything, because that could be painful. And then, you know, obviously if it starts to stick up around these edges, we'd want to trim that as well. So this is what the final product looks like, except that what I actually want to do is I'm gonna soak the leather again, because that will allow me to really tighten those zip ties, and it'll kind of bite down into the leather when it's soft. And then once I do that, I will take my Xacto knife again and just cut off those ends just like that. So this is what the finished product is gonna look like with these holes all the way around. But yeah, if you have any questions or need clarification on anything, reach out to our support email. We make these videos because people have asked us these questions. So if you feel like there's a hole in our YouTube channel, or you have a question about how to modify something or do something, reach out to us. And then similarly, we're always creating new products. We hope to have a kit to do this eventually. So, you know, depending on when you're watching this video, that might be available. So yeah, we're always making new things based on customers' needs and issues we see come up. So reach out, we are more than happy to help.